To Cincinnati, Ohio, the third most important of the so-called swing states with 18 electoral college votes on offer, where something quite telling was happening today. People were queuing to vote, not a small queue through the building and out the door, that kind of thing, but a queue that spoke of people giving a damn, of being highly galvanized, a queue that one man we spoke to spent 3¼ hours in. We'll talk to him later on Checkpoint. But Katie Vogel is the engagement editor for the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper, and if you think that sounds familiar, they recently backed the Democrats for the first time in a century. Katie Vogel was in the queue. We spoke to her earlier.
So, John, I actually was voting as a private citizen today. I did not go to vote early in anticipation of having to work because Tuesday, election day here, is actually an 18-hour shift for me. So I wanted to get this out of the way and to not stress. So when I got to the Hamilton County Board of Elections, usually early voting queues are, maybe a couple hundred people, sometimes even less. And today, there were actually almost 1,300 people in line. Original estimates had been given at 4,000, but it was actually a little bit lower than that. But there's been a lot of talk in Ohio and around the country about lack of enthusiasm for early voting. And this weekend in Hamilton County, which is a indicator county in a swing state that's critical in every election, it's actually broken the records for in-person voting from 2008, from Barack Obama's first run. So that really speaks a lot to the level of enthusiasm and intensity that is being focused on this election right now.
Yes, these are people who understand their vote counts, right? So in 12 they voted Obama, in 8 they voted Obama, in 4 they voted Bush, and in 0 they voted Bush. So not only these people who understand their vote counts, they're people who get it right. I mean, time after time after time, Hamilton County has picked the president. Who were they voting for? Who were these people queuing to vote for?
So, John, you're right. As goes Ohio, as goes the nation. So largely the voters that I was interacting with in line and when I had someone holding my place in the queue and I was working the line because you've got to work, they were largely Clinton supporters, but that's not such a surprise. It was also a huge day for Souls to the Polls, which is an African-American community-based church-focused turnout effort. So you go to church and then you take your souls to the polls. Exactly. So that might skew the perspective, but there were also Stein supporters in front of me who were discussing with their friends whether or not they were actually going to vote for Donald Trump to repudiate Hillary Clinton. I spoke with some really enthusiastic Trump supporters who had come down to do some electioneering. It was a bit of a circus today, and I think it really spoke. For me, it was a moment of hope and democracy because it was a very festive atmosphere where there was a county candidate who had a piglet that she was wandering around with, and there was another candidate who was being represented by a miniature horse. There was a man in from Indianapolis who had dressed his dog up in a taco outfit in reference to taco trucks on every corner. And the Clinton campaign had funded a couple of food trucks to come and hand out food and water. So there were tacos, of course, and cupcakes with tiny American flags in them. So while it was certainly a much longer wait than anyone really anticipated, it was definitely a bit of a festival atmosphere.
I'm really delighted to hear that because watching from afar, it's looked like such an angry campaign, such a polarized campaign. So it's nice that that tells us a different kind of story. Before you go, Katie, and thank you for being our correspondent, we're very grateful. But I want to talk about your newspaper's editorial line because for a century, the Cincinnati Enquirer has voted Republican, has backed Republican, has endorsed Republican. This time round, you came out with an editorial saying, vote Clinton. Why, and what has the reaction been?
So, John, as one of the 5 members of the editorial board here at the Enquirer, we've been having conversations about this endorsement for months now, and it was not a decision that we made lightly. This is a very conservative Catholic region. We have a very long tradition of supporting center-right Republican candidates, and as we wrote in our editorial board, we view Donald Trump as a clear and present danger.
Katie Vogel from the Cincinnati Enquirer. You can read the editorial in which they endorse Clinton over Trump on their website, cincinnati.com.